At different times in your life, people look at you and think you're not who you really are. People sometimes think that your deep silence means you are weak, that your immense patience means you are scared, and that your sacred stillness means you giving up for good. But they never got to see what was going on behind the curtain. That you were not idle was something their eyes and minds couldn't see or understand. You were getting ready. You were being refined, not shrunk. They weren't lost. They were getting you ready for a destiny that was much bigger than what they could see. You're with good people. Think about David, who was watching over his sheep in the fields by himself. His family and the prophet Samuel had forgotten about him, but God had chosen him. People look at how someone looks, but the Lord looks at what's inside. God saw the heart of a king where they saw a shepherd boy. If you think about Esther, an orphan who lived in the shadows until the right time came to stand up, enter the halls of power, and speak for the salvation of her people. Imagine Jesus standing in complete silence in front of his accusers. He had the power to call forth legions of angels, but he chose to be still because real authority never shouts. Purpose that is real doesn't rush. It waits with divine patience for the right time. Deep down in your spirit, you must comprehend this. You weren't late. You were never behind. As it were, you were and are right on time for the holy calling that was put on your life before the sun even rose. The stone that the builders didn't want and threw away because they didn't think it was important or valuable is now the cornerstone. They thought they knew what you were like because you fit into their small box of expectations. God, on the other hand, always had a better plan. They saw a pawn in you, which is a small piece that can be moved around in their game. God saw a king, a queen, and a leader who was set on a mission when he looked at you. They saw someone who was small and not important. Someone was chosen, set apart, and marked for greatness by God. This message should serve as proof. Feel it in your heart and soul as deeply as possible. You were not made to follow their small, limiting rules. The whole game was changed on you. You weren't put on this earth to compete in their small ring. It's your job to change what victory really looks like. Now is not the time to try to change who you are to fit in. The time has come for you to finally step up and assume the position of author that God had prepared just for you before the world was even created. Type Amen in the comments if this message already speaks to your spirit. In this first step of agreement, say that you are ready to receive the truth about who you are and live out your calling to the fullest. Know that it is not by chance that this message is speaking to your spirit. You were always meant to hear this word. It was meant to happen this way. You are getting ready to take on this divine role that has been waiting for you. I want you to say that you are ready, so make this public as a sign that you are in line with heaven's will. Recognize that you are now acting in the authority that God has given you. You are no longer waiting for approval or validation from people who can't see how valuable you really are. Are you all set? Then start the real game. This time, it will be yours, and a divine hand will guide you. It takes faith to like this video, not just a click. Your body is in sync with the spiritual breakthrough that is starting to happen in your life right now. To keep going on this journey, you might want to subscribe as an act of obedience. Your promise to keep in touch with the messages is what will keep you in alignment in this new season. Before we go any further, please know that spreading this message is a way to serve others. You are not only extending the blessing, but also increasing the favor over your own life as you send this prophecy to those who need it. People around you were in a hurry to move quickly, make noise, and prove something to everyone who was watching. But they didn't see a deep truth. Lasting mastery often looks like complete stillness. You didn't say a word while they were making their quick, flashy moves, eager to be seen and praised. But you didn't do nothing. You were doing math, watching, and lining up. It's not like you were here to put on a show, so you didn't respond to what they said. You came to this place to win a war. They thought you were falling behind, which was a bad assumption. The shocking truth, however, is that you were simply following a higher strategy, a divine blueprint that was not based on ego or noise, but rather on an eternal purpose and a sacred calling. You didn't just play the same game as them. You were doing things on a totally different level, a higher dimension of it. You saw a calling, a holy assignment that demanded patience and accuracy, while they saw a competition and a mad rush for attention. You were being prepared behind the scenes for the heavy burden of divine responsibility, while they were preoccupied with chasing the fleeting spotlight of human recognition. Then, when the time was right, when everything you had learned, watched, and patiently waited for had come together, you made your move. Instead of being cocky, you moved with a quiet authority that couldn't be shaken. You didn't move with force, you did it with a strong faith. And that one move, timed perfectly, changed everything. This is the way for those that God picks. Think about Nehemiah's story. His enemies made fun of him all the time while he was fixing up the broken walls of Jerusalem. With threats and pointless arguments and small fights meant to drain his focus and spirit, they tried to keep him from doing what he needed to do. They couldn't hear him because he spoke with such divine clarity. I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. You have not given in to being pulled down into the mud and the noise. Just like Nehemiah. Negativity and doubt knew they couldn't get into your focus because it was holy ground. Deep down in your spirit, you knew that your strength was your silence. They thought they were ahead, but they didn't understand the main difference between the games you were playing. When they played checkers, they were focused on the next move and responding to what was in front of them. But the whole time, you've been playing chess with the help of a wisdom that sees the whole board and all of heaven's resources. You saw them celebrate their small, early wins, and you saw how they mistakenly thought that this was real, long-lasting victory. Even though you heard all the noise they made, you didn't let it shake the solid ground you stand on. You were paying close attention to their patterns and habits and waiting for the right time with disciplined patience. It wasn't a fear-based pause. It was a disciplined move based on knowledge. You didn't react because you were put down. Your steps were being ordered by a power they could never comprehend. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in His way. Every single time they overlooked you, they were unintentionally giving you more space to move in the strategic power of silence. Every single time they underestimated you, they unknowingly revealed their own blind spots, their own weaknesses, which you quietly noted. And when it was finally time, you struck with a precision and clarity that left them completely stunned. By the time they finally realized that the entire game had shifted, it was far too late. You were already walking in the victory they never believed could belong to you. But you must remember, this victory was not just yours. It was God's victory, manifested through you. He positioned you in the quiet places. He prepared you in the hidden seasons. He protected you from every distraction, so that your rise would not be a temporary flash in the pan, but a transformative and permanent shift. This is the beautiful result of allowing God to lead your movements. He teaches you how to speak less and perceive more. He instructs you on how to wait well, not with passive idleness, but with active preparation. He guides you on how to move with a divine precision that the world cannot predict or counter. Think of the majestic eagle. It does not flap its wings wildly and desperately like the smaller birds. It soars high above the earth, using the power of the wind itself, the very storms, to ascend to greater heights. The scripture promises, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. That is a perfect picture of what you have been doing all along. You have been rising, not rushing, and now your elevation is becoming undeniable. They once saw you as someone they could control, someone they could easily silence, someone who did not possess the strength to lead. But they fundamentally misunderstood who you were. You were not just showing up in your own strength. You were being sent by the King of all kings. You were not just enduring the fire, you were evolving within it. And now your very presence speaks with more volume and authority than their empty words ever could. This long and often painful journey was never about revenge. It was never about proving your doubters and critics wrong. It was always about proving God right. It was about demonstrating that when He places His hand upon your life, no strategy formed against you will ever prosper. It was about showing the world that when you choose to walk in obedience instead of worldly urgency, you win differently. You win quietly, you win decisively, and you win permanently. And now, the very ones who mocked you, they can only watch in stunned silence. The ones who underestimated you, they are now forced to learn from you. Because the game they thought they were playing, the one they were so sure they controlled, was never really in their hands at all. You were never truly idle, though from the outside, it may have looked like a season of profound stillness. You were never stuck, though they may have whispered that you had lost your way. In reality, you were enrolled in a masterclass, a divine school of silence. While they were busy talking, you were observing. While they were posturing, you were discerning. And while they were celebrating their temporary gains, you were quietly collecting priceless insight. You were not just learning about what was being done to you. You were studying the very nature of how they moved, why they moved, and what they feared the most. You were learning to read the language of their insecurities, the patterns of how they shifted blame, the subtle ways they dressed up their fragile pride and called it power, while they grew more and more arrogant in their false and fleeting sense of control. You became fluent in their strategies, and in that quiet fluency, everything began to change. The fundamental problem with those who believe they are untouchable is that they eventually stop paying attention. Their own pride becomes a blindfold. They become so intoxicated by the sound of their own early applause, so mesmerized by their shallow victories, that they forget that the war is never won in the noise. It is won in the quiet discipline of the heart. The Bible warns us, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. They were so busy looking down on you that they never saw the ground crumbling beneath their own feet. They truly believed they had silenced you. They looked at your peace and mistook it for paralysis. But the profound truth is, you were never trying to prove anything to them in the first place. You were simply refusing to stoop to their level of chaos and conflict. While they were gloating over their empty wins, you were in the background building something real, something lasting, something that could withstand the test of time. They were playing their game to impress a temporary audience. You were preparing to make an eternal impact. They made quick, reckless moves driven by messy emotions and reactionary impulses. You, on the other hand, moved with a quiet clarity, a deep conviction, and a divine direction that they could not comprehend. It was not that you disappeared from the face of the earth. It was that you made a conscious and powerful decision to stop giving them access to your sacred energy. They were constantly watching you, expecting your every move, waiting for you to react to their bait, but you were no longer reacting anymore. You had transcended their childish game entirely. This is the precise moment where true power shifts. The game completely collapses when they come to the sickening realization that they can no longer predict you, that they can no longer provoke you into a reaction that feeds their ego. The psalmist knew this secret well. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. You deliberately chose the path of stillness, not as an act of surrender, but as a strategy of sacred silence. You chose the path of wisdom, not the path of war. And that single powerful decision dismantled the very foundation of everything they thought they controlled. They had built their entire strategy around a version of you that no longer existed. They had prepared themselves for your retaliation, but they never, in a million years, anticipated your transformation. They were so busy slandering your name, scheming against you, and competing against their outdated idea of who you used to be, that they failed to realize you had evolved into someone they no longer knew. You were not even on the same battlefield anymore. While they were wasting their time plotting to tear you down, they did not notice that the very ground beneath their own feet was cracking and giving way. Yes, they set their traps for you, but you never had to waste your energy avoiding them because you were walking on a higher path. Yes, they spoke your name in secret to ruin your reputation, but all they managed to do was reinforce your resilience and reveal their own character. Every single attack they launched only served to sharpen your discernment. Every false assumption they made only made you stronger and more resolute in your sacred silence. The promise of God over your life was not just poetic, it was personal and powerful. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. When you finally made your move, it was not loud, it was not dramatic, it was not for show, but it was final. It was a divine checkmate, and they did not even realize they had lost the game until the board was completely cleared and you were already walking with grace and confidence into your next chapter. You never needed their approval to begin with. You never required their validation to know your worth. While they foolishly thought they were outmaneuvering you, they were unknowingly dancing to the very rhythm you had predicted long before they ever made a move. Every step they took was a part of the pattern you had already mapped out in your spirit. That is the inevitable result when your decisions are led by divine wisdom, not by a wounded and reactive pride. And when you finally pulled back completely, when you stopped showing up to their circuses, stopped explaining yourself, and stopped reacting to their drama, that is when the real panic began to set in for them. Because control absolutely requires access, and without access to you, they had nothing. No leverage, no power, and most importantly, no place in your life. You had learned the sacred lesson. Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. You finally learned to protect what is sacred. You stopped offering your precious spirit to those who only knew how to consume it. And in that holy withdrawal, you took back every single thing they thought they had drained from you. If you are committing today to protect your sacred ground and walk in a peace that the world cannot take away, declare it in the comments by typing, "My peace is my power." Let this be a spiritual boundary you set for your soul, a firm line that tells the world your tranquility is no longer for sale. You made the boldest and most powerful move a person can make in the face of such opposition. You disappeared, not in defeat, but in complete and total control. There were no warnings, no dramatic announcements, no tearful final exits. There was just silence, a sacred, holy silence. At first, they were ecstatic. They were sure you were finally breaking down. They convinced themselves and each other that their schemes had finally worked, that they had pushed you past your limits. In their small and insecure minds, you were hiding somewhere, ashamed, shattered, and shrinking into the obscurity they had always wished for you. But what they failed to understand is a universal truth. Those who operate from a place of deep-seated insecurity will always misinterpret quiet as weakness. They do not know how to recognize strength that does not need to announce itself. They were absolutely certain you had nothing left in you. But what their eyes could not see What their spirits could not perceive was that you were building, brick by brick in the unseen realm. You were constructing everything they foolishly thought you had lost. You were not retreating. You were rebuilding. You were not falling off the map. You were falling into perfect alignment with your purpose. You had finally mastered the profound art of not chasing, not explaining, and not reacting. You stopped showing up to battles that were designed only to drain your spirit. You stopped defending yourself in their kangaroo courts where the verdict against you had already been decided long before you even spoke. You let them have the last word, knowing with a deep and quiet confidence that their word would never be the final one. You rested in the promise, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And you were. You were magnificently still. But stillness is not the same as stagnation. In the unseen world where it truly matters, you were moving with grace and power. And the very moment they realized that they no longer had any access to your energy, a deep and unsettling panic began to set in. They kept checking for you, watching your social media pages, asking mutual acquaintances about you, desperately looking for any sign of your collapse. But there was nothing. No angry posts, no emotional outbursts, no public meltdowns. Because you were not losing, you were leveling up quietly, intentionally, and more powerfully than ever before. You made what is known as the ghost move. It is the kind of move that does not just shift your life, it shifts the entire board. Suddenly, the game they thought they were playing was completely different. When they finally heard your name again, it was being spoken with respect in rooms they could no longer enter. It came up in conversations to which they were not invited. You did not just move forward on the same path. You transcended the very space they used to occupy. You were no longer within their reach, no longer on the same level, and no longer bound by the chains of their expectations. And that is the fundamental difference between you and them. They desperately need an audience to feel powerful. They require constant applause to feel alive. You do not. You have discovered that real, authentic power is quiet. It does not need to demand to be seen. It simply allows the results to speak for themselves. The scriptures tell us that even a fool is considered wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. True power does not beg for recognition, it simply is. They had grown completely dependent on your reactions. They were addicted to the way you used to respond to their provocations. Your energy was the very fuel for their illusion of dominance. Every time they poked at you, they expected a fire. Every time they questioned you, they waited impatiently for a reply, but you gave them nothing. And in that powerful, deafening silence, their entire structure of control crumbled to dust. That was the moment their game truly ended. Without your presence to validate them, their platform collapsed. Without your responses to engage with, their relevance faded into nothing. You did not have to argue, you did not have to fight. You simply walked away, and the battlefield they had created disappeared behind you. They expected you to prove yourself, to justify your path, to explain your strength. But you were too focused for such trivial things. You let them talk, you let them judge, you let them wait. And while they were busy doing all of that, you ascended. That is the undeniable beauty of moving in perfect alignment with your purpose. You do not have to convince people that you are chosen. You just have to keep walking in the assignment God has given you. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. When you finally stopped playing their game, they lost all control, and they know it. Let your like be an act of faith, a signal to heaven that you are taking your power back and stepping into the breakthrough that comes from holy silence. From the very beginning of your sacred withdrawal, they mocked you. In their minds, which were clouded by pride and a desperate need for control, your silence was an admission of surrender. Your absence from their conversations, from their games, from their world was all the proof they needed. They gathered in their circles and told themselves and each other that you had finally quit, that you were irrevocably broken, that you had nothing left to say because you had nothing of worth to say. And for a moment, just a fleeting, painful moment, you even started to question yourself. The immense weight of being so profoundly misunderstood, the sharp and lingering sting of being so casually dismissed, began to chip away at the edges of your confidence. But even in that valley of doubt, deep inside the core of your being, something sacred began to stir. A still, quiet knowing, a divine whisper that cut through all the noise. You were never forgotten. You were being hidden on purpose, for a purpose. The creator of the universe had spoken over you before you even had a name. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. You are not a random occurrence. You are not late to your own life. You are here by a divine and meticulous design. And the very moment you stopped trying to explain yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you, when you stopped fighting for a validation they were never capable of giving, that was the very moment your real power began to rise from the ashes. As time passed and you remained resolutely silent, a strange restlessness began to grow within them. What had once felt like a clear dominance to them began to curdle into a quiet desperation. They started watching you from a distance, scanning your life, searching for the signs of failure they had so confidently predicted. But instead of finding the chaos or collapse they were hoping for, they found only mystery, and nothing unsettles the deeply insecure more than that which they cannot understand or control. Your silence became a sacred and impenetrable fortress. Every time you chose not to respond to their bait, they lost a little more of their perceived control. They started reaching for you indirectly, subtly, and at times even manipulatively. A cryptic message here, a passive-aggressive post there, all designed to fish for your attention, hoping to provoke you into any kind of reaction that would prove they still mattered. But you gave them nothing, because you had finally learned a truth that had set you free. Peace is infinitely more powerful than proof. This is the profound shift that happens when you stop defending your identity to the world and you simply start walking in it. The Apostle Paul understood this when he wrote, "So we make it our goal to please him, whether we are at home in the body or away from it." You no longer needed to be seen by them because you had already been sent by him. They once foolishly believed they were in complete control of your narrative, but now they are the ones left chasing shadows, desperately trying to confirm if they still hold any importance to someone who has already moved on to a higher place. They do not want you back in their lives because they suddenly value you. They want you back because your powerful silence exposed the fragile illusion of their own importance. Moving in silence gave you all of your power back. The moment you stopped explaining your purpose was the moment they lost the blueprint to manipulate you. You must see this clearly. They had built their own fragile confidence on your reaction. They fed on your emotional vulnerability. Their very sense of identity relied on your presence in their game. But once you turned your focus inward, once you let God alone lead your steps, they had no more access, no more power, and no more control. You began to live by the command, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. You stopped playing their exhausting game and started building your own eternal legacy. While they remained stuck in the past, replaying old moments, clinging desperately to old stories and waiting with bated breath for your downfall, you were already walking boldly into your next chapter, and every single step you took forward was a quiet and powerful reminder that they had never been ahead of you. They were simply louder, but louder does not mean wiser, and noise has never been and will never be the same as true movement. You were never the weak one in this story. You were the source. You were the standard. And they did not realize it until it was far, far too late. They are now the ones spiraling, not because of something you did to them, but because of what they failed to see all along. You were never just a player in their game. You were the architect of the entire board. If you feel the truth of this in your soul, that you were never forgotten but were hidden for a divine purpose, affirm your trust in God's perfect plan by typing Amen below. Let this be your public declaration that you are moving on from their narrative and walking fully into God's. They completely mistook your silence for submission, your profound humility for a pathetic helplessness. They thought they had you perfectly cornered, convinced that they could weaponize your past against you and use your old scars as leverage to keep you under their thumb. So they whispered your name with malice in rooms you hadn't even stepped into yet, arrogantly trying to write your story for you before you ever had the chance to speak for yourself. They laid their intricate traps with smug confidence, certain that you would walk straight into them, just like you might have done in a previous season of your life. But while they were busy plotting against a ghost, you were rewriting the entire narrative from a place of power and peace. Their first and most critical mistake was assuming that the same person who had once made mistakes hadn't also learned from them. What they failed to realize was that every failure, every misstep, and every single flaw they tried to spotlight and use against you had already been redeemed. You had already been to the altar. You had already turned those very ashes they were throwing in your face into a crown of purpose. You stood firmly on the promise that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. You let them talk. You allowed the rumors and the lies to run their course because you understood one fundamental, unshakable thing: the truth always outlives the lie. You had absolutely nothing to defend because you were busy building something so vast and so glorious that their petty opinions could never touch it. While they were obsessing over your downfall, you were quietly rising, completely unbothered, intensely focused, and unshakable in your resolve. Those who rely on manipulation as their primary tool assume that everyone else operates in the same way. They fully expected you to retaliate. They braced themselves for a fight. They waited for you to beg for their understanding, to cry out for their validation. But when none of that ever came, they were completely and utterly disarmed. Your sacred silence became your greatest and most impenetrable defense. And in that holy space you created, they began to unravel all on their own. As you continued to build in peace, they were unknowingly digging their own graves with the shovels of their bitterness and deceit. They meticulously prepared ambushes for a version of you that no longer existed. And when you did not show up in the way they had predicted, when you did not respond at all to their provocations, they had no idea what to do next. You were living in the reality of the promise. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. They waited for your collapse and were instead forced to witness your glorious rise. They kept strategizing, they kept shifting their tactics, growing more and more desperate with every failed attempt to get a reaction from you. But it was already over. They were playing a game that you had stopped participating in long ago. And because they were so completely consumed with the goal of tearing you down, they failed to see how unstable their own foundations had become. They lost because they fundamentally underestimated the divine power of someone who knows who they are in God. They thought they were in control, but the influence they once had over you, it is gone. Their words no longer have the power to sting. Their tactics no longer work. And why is that? It is because you made the powerful choice to refuse to fight them. You let them fight themselves, and in that process, they exposed every dark and hidden part of themselves they had tried so desperately to hide. You did not have to argue your case. You did not need to correct their false narrative. You just kept walking in your purpose. Your undeniable growth spoke volumes. Your steady elevation silenced all their noise. And in that sacred, deafening quiet, the undeniable truth finally settled in for everyone to see. You were never theirs to destroy. Now they are left with nothing but the bitter taste of regret and the haunting echo of their own deception. Meanwhile, you are still climbing, you are still thriving, and you are still winning. Because your focus has never been on getting revenge. It has always been on becoming who God created you to be. They thought they had you all figured out, confined within the neat and predictable box they had built for you in their minds. They foolishly believed they held the upper hand, that your loyalty to them meant you would always be available, always responsive, always waiting patiently for them to decide your worth. But what their limited understanding could never grasp is that, while they were busy counting on your constant presence, you were quietly stepping into your divine purpose. While they were consumed with fighting small, petty battles to satisfy their fragile egos, you were in the background preparing to win the war for your soul. You were not reacting to their provocations, you were rising above them. They arrogantly assumed they had all the time in the world. They assumed they would always have access to you. They assumed that no matter how much they disrespected your name, you would still show up to defend it. But your silence was never an admission of surrender. It was a powerful and strategic declaration of war fought on holy ground. You were not losing your voice. You were reclaiming it for the one who gave it to you. And by the time they finally woke up and realized they had no control left, it was already far too late. The board had already shifted. The game had already changed. And the person they thought they knew so well no longer existed. This is what happens when the hand of God is truly on someone's life. He does not always elevate you in the dazzling spotlight of public opinion. Sometimes he raises you up in the sacred quiet of the wilderness so that when you emerge, no one can take the credit for your rise but him. The scripture promises, "The Lord will make you the head, not the tail." If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God, you will always be at the top, never at the bottom. They completely underestimated the explosive power of private growth. While they were clinging desperately to their outdated opinions of who you were quietly evolving into who you were always created to be. They were so focused on your past that they were completely blind to your preparation. They were so obsessed with their own narrative that they failed to see the anointing that was being poured out upon you. They tried to drag you down into the gutter with them, hoping you would retaliate and stoop to their level. But you never needed to because you knew who you were. You chose elevation over ego. You chose growth over gossip. And because of that one sacred choice, they could never truly compete with you. Their actions were driven by raw emotion, by a deep-seated bitterness, by a blinding pride, and by the desperate, pathetic hope that you would ultimately fail. But you moved with a divine vision. You moved with God. And now the tables have completely turned. The very same ones who once laughed at you, who mocked your dreams and casually dismissed your voice, are now watching you from a distance, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock and disbelief, their spirits uneasy. And it is not just your success that bothers them so deeply. It is the undeniable fact that they had absolutely nothing to do with it. It is the fact that they cannot claim any part of your breakthrough. It is the reality that they had a front row seat to your journey and still managed to miss the entire show. There were no dramatic clapbacks from you, no public rebuttals, no need to engage in their petty games. There was just progress, quiet, undeniable and unstoppable progress. And nothing stings a prideful heart more than watching someone win with grace, especially when you were utterly convinced they would crumble without your approval. They desperately wanted you to respond, to cry out in pain, to beg for their acceptance. Instead, they were met with a divine stillness, with a holy resilience, with a version of you they can no longer access. They once ridiculed your faith. They rolled their eyes at your calling. They confidently declared that you would be nothing without them. But now they are the ones doing the most, trying everything they can to get your attention, even if it is just for a fleeting second. And still, you do not look back. Because when God elevates you, He sets your feet on higher ground, far out of their reach, far out of the mess, and far out of the shadows of people who only ever saw your value once you no longer needed their validation. The prophet Isaiah declared a promise that is now your reality. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. They had the luxury of mocking you when they believed you were small. But now that you have grown, now that you have soared past every single limit they tried to place on you, they are the ones left scrambling, not because you failed, but because you did not, and because they never, in their wildest dreams, imagined the story would end this way, with you on the mountaintop and them just watching from below. If you recognize that God is turning the tables in your life, and that this is your season of elevation, confirm it in the Spirit by writing "I am rising" in the comments. Let this be an anchor for your faith as you leave the valley behind and step onto the higher ground prepared for you. There comes a divine moment in every journey when the tables turn, not with a loud crash of vengeance, but with the quiet, undeniable power of your growth. The very same people who once sat in their self-righteous circles speaking ill of your name, who picked apart your every move and questioned your very worth, now find themselves forming quiet, secret fan clubs. Their whispers have changed in tone. What was once dripping with mockery is now laced with a reluctant curiosity, a quiet fascination, and an envy they can no longer conceal. They study you now. They examine your posture, your mindset, your strategy, desperately trying to decode how the same person they so easily overlooked has now become the one they cannot stop watching. From the sidelines, they wait, observing you closely, dropping subtle hints, testing the waters to see if they can somehow slide back into your life unnoticed. But you see it all with perfect clarity now. You see them for who they truly are. Not allies, not well-wishers, but opportunists. They are drawn not by love or loyalty, but by the gravitational pull of your relevance. They are trying to find a place in a story that has already moved on without them. And here is the beautiful, liberating truth. They no longer affect you. Their attention, their opinions, their obsession, none of it holds any weight because you are no longer starving for their approval. You are not seeking their applause. You have outgrown the exhausting need to explain yourself. What once would have shaken you to your core now does not even reach you on the mountain where you stand. You have finally understood the question the Apostle Paul posed. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. They had their chance to walk with you, to stand beside you in the trenches, but instead of believing in you, they chose to doubt you. And now you have become the main event, and they are just spectators in the stands, reduced to meaningless chatter while you move in the power of your purpose. Let them talk, let them wonder. Whether they are present in your life or not, the show goes on. Because by the time the curtains fall each day, the laughter has long since faded from their mouths, and they are left with the emptiness of their own choices. You never needed to fight back. You never had to justify your sacred calling. You did not clap back, you did not shout louder, and you did not waste a single moment trying to prove your worth. You simply grew. And that growth, in and of itself, dismantled every single illusion they tried to build around you. Because when God elevates you, He does it in such a way that it exposes everything false that surrounds you. Jesus taught, "You will know them by their fruits." And your fruit speaks with a volume their gossip could never achieve. Your rise forced them to confront a truth they had spent years desperately avoiding. They were never ahead of you, not in purpose, not in peace, and certainly not in power. Their confidence was never real. It was a fragile construct built on constant comparison. Their entire sense of control existed only as long as you doubted yourself. The very moment you stopped explaining, stopped defending, and walked in the full, glorious awareness of who you are, they completely unraveled. What terrifies them the most is not just that you made it, it is that you made it without them. Because now, stripped of your presence, which they used as a mirror for their own importance, they are left face to face with themselves. And it is not a pretty picture. They spent years meticulously building their strategies against someone who was never even competing with them to begin with. That was the part they could never understand, the piece of the puzzle that always eluded them. You were never in their race. You were running your own, a sacred marathon toward destiny, not a frantic sprint toward validation. While they stayed exactly where they were, rooted in the shallow soil of image and fixated on maintaining control, you were quietly outgrowing every single definition they tried to place on you. They remained stuck in the illusion of their own superiority, desperately trying to maintain appearances, acting as if they too were evolving, when in reality, all they have been doing is pretending not to fall behind. But no amount of pretense can mask the undeniable fact that you have moved on. Not just physically or materially, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. You operate on a different frequency now. While they were obsessing over your every move, you were already planning the next one, guided by a higher wisdom. While they were busy circulating their opinions, their rumors, and their confident predictions about your imminent downfall, you were quietly harvesting wins, some of them visible to the world, others private and known only to you and God, but all of them significant. They did not notice your transformation because they were too distracted by their own projections, blinded by the reflection of their own insecurities. You were not playing a short game. You were building a long-term foundation that their short-sighted minds could never even comprehend. They chased the intoxicating high of instant validation, the kind that fades as quickly as it comes. You, on the other hand, chased meaning, sustainability, and divine timing, and that is precisely why they could never catch you. They were constantly reacting. You were intentionally responding. They were fueled by the unstable rocket fuel of pride. You were fueled by the eternal flame of purpose. They thought you were moving too slowly, not realizing that God was positioning you with meticulous precision for a purpose far greater than they could imagine. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes reminds us, the end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. You waited, you endured, and now you walk with ease into rooms that once were not ready for the weight of your anointing. They thought they were outplaying you because they fundamentally misunderstood the entire game. Their entire strategy was rooted in impulse, driven by raw and unchecked emotion, and designed to win fleeting, meaningless battles. You, on the other hand, were focused on the war, on your legacy, on your eternal impact, on building something so solid and so sacred that they would never be able to touch it, much less tear it down. That is why there is now a distance between you and them that can never be bridged, not out of hatred or arrogance on your part, but simply because you have outgrown the entire landscape they still call home. In this new, elevated place, you also came to a sobering and essential truth. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people only show up when the food is served, but they were nowhere to be found during the long and laborious process of building, during the seasons of hunger and uncertainty. They want to eat from the harvest, but they never brought any ingredients. They never helped to stir the pot. They never even believed there would be a meal in the first place. And now that the sweet aroma of your success fills the room, they suddenly want a plate. But this time, you are guarding the door, not from a place of bitterness or revenge, but from a place of profound wisdom and sacred protection. You have learned the lesson spoken in Proverbs. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. You have finally learned how sacred your energy is. You have come to realize how precious your peace has become. And that is why you are no longer explaining yourself. You do not need their congratulations. Their belated and self-serving applause does not move you. The only recognition that matters to you now is the undeniable fruit of your consistency, the quiet evidence of your obedience, and the unshakable strength of your private victories. And the beautiful irony is this: the very ones who secretly hoped you would collapse are now forced to watch you thrive from a distance, and they have no choice but to witness it in a stunned and resentful silence. Let your like be an act of faith that seals this protection over your life. It is your declaration that you are not only receiving your breakthrough, but that you are guarding it with wisdom. They are being confronted daily by a truth they never anticipated. You were never without potential. You were simply underestimated. Their sense of superiority was always loud, bold, and theatrical. They stood on their soapboxes and declared to anyone who would listen that you would never make it, that without them, you were absolutely nothing, that your efforts were laughable and destined for failure. They mocked your ambition, they rolled their eyes at your vision, and they made it their personal mission to always stay one step ahead of you because your potential rise terrified them more than they ever admitted, even to themselves. But now a divine reversal has taken place. They are the ones imitating the very moves they once ridiculed. They are now studying your rhythm, trying to trace your steps, and attempting to decode the very blueprint they once dismissed as foolish. They now try to speak your language, but the truth is, it was never theirs to begin with. When people operate from a place of pure ego, they never prepare for the possibility that the one they look down upon might actually rise. They never consider that the one they laughed at might one day become the standard. Ego blinds them to the possibility of divine reversals. And that is what makes your story so incredibly powerful. You did not rise to prove them wrong. You rose because the promise of God over your life was never, ever dependent on their belief in you. The prophet Habakkuk declared a timeless truth: "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it, for it will surely come. It will not delay." Everything they did to try to erase you, every insult they hurled, every act of sabotage they attempted, every single time they tried to shake your confidence, it did not destroy you. It made you unstoppable. You took every single stone they threw at you, and you used it as material for your foundation. You turned your pain into power, their delay into your development, and their rejection into your divine redirection. What was meant by the enemy to crush you only served to call forth a courage you did not even know you possessed. Your resilience did not just carry you through the fire, it multiplied in the face of every attempt to break you. If you receive this word, that what was meant to harm you has only made you unstoppable, seal this truth over your life by typing a powerful Amen in the comments right now. Let the heavens hear your roar of agreement, and let it serve as notice to the enemy that their weapons have no more power here. And now they are left with nothing but a storm of unanswered questions. How did you do it? How did the one they were so sure would crumble become the one they cannot stop watching? And the answer is breathtakingly simple. You stayed obedient. You stayed planted in the soil of your purpose. You stayed in perfect alignment with a calling they could never see. They never saw it coming, not because it was hidden from them, but because their eyes were never trained to recognize the sacred. From the very beginning, they measured you through the distorted lens of their own limitations, constantly judging your journey by the shallow and meaningless milestones they used to validate their own fragile existence. What they carelessly labeled as your hesitation was actually your discernment. What they cruelly mocked as your stagnation was, in reality, the profound stillness of someone moving in perfect alignment with divine timing. They could not understand it, so they dismissed it. But what was dismissed by man was being meticulously developed by God, in secret, in silence, and in seasons where absolutely nothing made sense to others. He was cultivating something deep within you that could never be quantified by their superficial metrics of success. You were not being overlooked. You were being reserved. There is a monumental difference between being counted out and being set apart. And you, my friend, were the latter all along. That is why their usual formulas and manipulations did not apply to you. That is why their wicked schemes and intricate plots did not succeed. Because while they were trying to move you with the external pressures of this world, God was anchoring you with an eternal purpose. They tried desperately to reduce you to your past, to chain you to a version of yourself that no longer exists. They repeated your mistakes like they were your entire identity, never realizing that the very things you once stumbled through, God had already used as the raw material for the unshakable foundation He was laying in your life. The very things they tried to use against you were the precise tools God used to refine you. You did not just survive the fire, you came out of it forged into something new, something powerful, something unbreakable. They fully expected the flames to consume you, but instead, the fire only revealed what could not be burned. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, you walked through the flames completely untouched, not because you were so strong in yourself, but because the living God was with you in those flames. You have learned that divine protection does not always look like the avoidance of trouble. Sometimes it looks like supernatural preservation in the very midst of what should have broken you into a million pieces. That is why you walk differently now, not with an air of arrogance, but with a quiet and profound awareness. You carry a quiet authority that does not have to be announced from the rooftops. They sense it now, even if their pride will never allow them to say it out loud. And that is what truly rattles them to their core. It is not just your success, it is your peace. It is the undeniable fact that you are not pressed, you are not reactive, and you are not performing for their applause anymore. They simply cannot understand how someone who has been through so much could carry themselves with such a profound and unshakable calm. But that is the thing, isn't it? They saw your struggle, but they never saw your surrender. They watched the battles, but they missed the intimate prayers in the secret place. They heard the silence, but they never understood the immense strength it took to remain still when everything inside of you wanted to scream. They cannot figure out how you made it because they do not know the one who carried you through it all. You did not get here by being clever. You got here by being covered in grace, covered in favor, and covered in a sacred calling that was never, ever contingent on their validation. And now that you have risen, now that you have emerged from the very shadows they tried so desperately to keep you in, they want access again. Not because they suddenly honor who you have become, but because they miss the version of you that made them feel big, the version that over-explained, the version that dimmed your light. the version that gave too much, too fast, and too often. But that version of you no longer exists. You buried that person in the wilderness. You laid that identity down when you finally picked up your cross of obedience. And now the person you have become is not someone they can manage, manipulate, or minimize. You have learned to set firm boundaries that guard your precious peace. You have learned that proximity is not the same thing as partnership. Just because someone once walked with you does not mean they deserve a seat beside you now in this new season. Some of them are still trying to follow your old footprints, not realizing that you have stopped walking and have started soaring. You are not where they left you. You are not who they thought you would stay. You do not even think on the same frequency anymore. While they are still chasing relevance, you are chasing reverence. While they are busy measuring their success by how many people are watching them, you are measuring yours by how well you are walking in alignment with your Creator. Because you have come to understand a profound truth. It is not about being seen, it is about being sent. And when God sends you, there is absolutely no need to convince anyone of your worth. The fruit will speak for itself. The favor will speak for itself. The peace will speak for itself. You no longer have to lift your voice to prove your power. Now, your very posture does all the talking, and yes, they are still watching. Some of them watch with a secret admiration they will never admit. Some of them watch with a deep confusion, wondering how you ever made it without them. And others watch with a strange and unsettling mixture of guilt and awe, because deep down, they remember how they laughed when you dreamed, how they doubted when you believed, and how they stood back and did nothing when you desperately needed their support. But you have released the need for them to get it. You are no longer looking for closure from conversations they were never mature enough to have. You are no longer waiting for apologies that may never come. You have shifted your energy from proving to producing, from explaining to expanding, from merely surviving to gloriously thriving. Your very existence now is the living, breathing evidence that God is faithful. You are a walking testimony of what happens when someone refuses to be defined by rejection and instead chooses the path of redemption. What they thought was the end of you was only the glorious beginning. You have stopped trying to earn your way into rooms you were already graced for. You have stopped watering dead places in your life, hoping they would somehow bloom. And now you are rooted in the unshakable truth, flourishing in your divine purpose, and completely untouchable by the hands that once tried so desperately to clip your wings. And maybe that is the greatest plot twist of all. Not just that you made it, but that you made it whole. That you made it with your heart still intact. That you made it without compromising who you are. You are not just winning, you are glowing, you are growing, you are becoming, and no one, not the ones who doubted you, not the ones who left you, and not even the ones who tried to tear you down, can ever take the credit for that. Only God. Only grace, only purpose. Let your life speak louder than anything they ever said about you. Let this be your constant reminder that your elevation was not accidental. The pain you endured was not pointless. The delays you faced were not denials from God. Every single time you were rejected, every time you were misunderstood, every time you were overlooked, it was all working together for a greater glory that no one, not even you, could see yet. And now, as you stand in the glorious reality of who you have become, you can look back, not with bitterness, but with a blessed clarity. You can finally see the fingerprints of God on every single detour. You can see His divine protection hidden in every closed door. You can see how heaven was orchestrating a perfect path for you through all the chaos, even when your natural eyes could not make any sense of it. You did not just arrive here by chance. You were led here, chosen, called, and prepared in the sacred silence. And now, as your life begins to reflect the beautiful fruit of your unseen obedience, it is time to walk with an even greater intentionality, not just for yourself, but for the sacred assignment that is attached to your name. Because this is not just about your breakthrough. It is about what your breakthrough is supposed to unlock for others. God did not refine you just so you could shine. He refined you so you could carry something that breaks the yokes of bondage in other people's lives. The favor on your life is meant to be poured out. The healing you have received is meant to become healing in someone else's hands. You are not just rising for the sake of proving that you could. You are rising because someone else out there needs the strength that you now carry. If you are ready to walk this path, not just as someone who survived, but as someone who was sent, I invite you to make your final declaration. Type Amen in the comments to seal this entire word in your heart and activate your sacred assignment. Let it be your definitive yes to heaven, your yes to your purpose, and your yes to becoming everything you were created to be. And to ensure you don't miss the next word for your journey, let your subscription be your final act of obedience today. It secures your alignment with what God is continuing to do and keeps you positioned for your purpose. Finally, remember that the favor on your life is designed to overflow. Share this video with at least one person who needs this confirmation. As you extend this blessing, you will find it multiplies back to you in unexpected ways. Walk in your victory